Alright, I am back with another video, and today we are doing the next in my Deity build lineup, Loviatar. This is a build that we created over on my livestream as a community effort, as all of the Deity builds have since the series revival, and if you want to be a part of the future of this channel and the videos on this series, please come and join the live streams. I believe I'll be hosting one this Saturday, so as of this video going up, that's tomorrow, so feel free to join in. Anyways, so, Loviatar is an interesting one, and actually got the VOD for that stream, limited advertisements, because, well, I'm gonna have to skirt around this a little bit, because YouTube does not like it. She's a goddess of suffering, about pain and, you know, torture and all this nasty business. She's not a very nice god, actually is in service to Bane and was once formerly in service to Baal, so if you wanted to be a Dark Urge for this build, it would absolutely make sense. And I would probably suggest it actually, although I haven't built a Dark Urge here because modding and trying to make builds on a already existing save file is a little weird. Speaking of that, I kinda made a boo-boo. I went ahead and installed a bunch of mods for modded builds that will be coming to the channel every Sunday. These won't be replacing the regular vanilla builds that I would normally do. However, I did want to try my hand with some modded builds, and since Sunday videos are kind of bonus videos anyway, I thought I would give it a shot. So, the problem is I installed all these mods, accidentally saved over my original Act 3 save file, and now I have to run mods in order to make videos, otherwise the videos won't work. So, otherwise the save file won't work, I will say. So, you are going to see some modded classes, subclasses, and spells. However, this build is entirely vanilla. You can do this in the console versions of Act 3, no problem. The only modded aspects of this build is this bit of clothing here. Otherwise, I believe the hair and face are all vanilla, so it should work out quite nicely overall. Anyways, let's get into the build. The kind of idea with this build was to create a tank. I mean, if we're all about taking on pain, we want to be able to take a lot of it, so we've built for as much HP as we possibly can, and also kind of built in a unique kind of gimmick to this build that I think people will find really interesting. So let's get into it. We're going to be kicking things off as a Barbarian. I mean, this makes total sense. If you want to make a tanking build, Barbarian is one of the best ways to go. Playing as a Barbarian also has the largest amount of HP gain per level, so it makes a ton of sense. This works in tandem with our choice of race here, the Gold Dwarf. This isn't just aesthetic, this is important. Gold Dwarf gains HP every level as well, so stacking high HP from Barbarian with Gold Dwarf means a lot of HP for us, so it works out pretty nicely. As a Barbarian, we're going to be getting Rage, allowing us to deal 2 extra damage with melee and improvised weapons and throwing, as well as gaining resistance to physical damage and advantage on strength checks and saves. As many resistances we can get are going to be very welcome on this build. As for our ability scores, I've kind of gone for a pretty big, dumb, meaty Barbarian set. I don't think this character is necessarily dumb by any means, as they have a little bit of wisdom, but they're definitely more about, you know, solving their problems through pain rather than persuasion. So we have strength at 17, and we are going to be using Ethel's Boon and the Potion of Everlasting Vigour to bump this up to a 20. I wanted to use these here because I really want to bump up our constitution as we go through this build, and as such I didn't want to have to put points into strength, so we're just getting strength to 20 total without any ability score improvements. Dexterity is at 14. After all, it's a relatively decent stat to have at 14 with this build, since a lot of our AC is actually going to be coming from our constitution as we are using an armored defense. Dexterity doesn't play as much of a role in it, however I will be getting this a little bit higher by the end of the build anyway. But 14 is a nice starting point. Constitution is at 16, of course, as I said, we want this as high as it'll go. Intelligence and Charisma is at 8 because we don't need either, and Wisdom is at 10 because we had some points left over, and I wanted a little bit of Wisdom, and you'll see why later. But it's nice to just have it not be in the negatives, because those saving throws can be rather harsh, even though the extra 2 points probably isn't going to make that much of a difference by the end of the game. As for skill proficiencies, unfortunately, again, making Act 3 builds can sometimes be a bit buggy with how mods and such work, so I wasn't able to change the background for this one, but I'll make some suggestions. You could go with Soldier for Athletics and Intimidation. You could go with Urchin for, I believe, Sleight of Hand and Stealth. Those could be both really good. Or if you go with Dirge, you'll have the Haunted one for Intimidation and Medicine, which again is probably my recommendation. As for our other skill proficiencies though, we do probably want to get Athletics in some way, shape or form. We have High Strength, so we might as well. And I quite like having Perception here, but any of these other Barbarian things will work. Again, you'll most likely have Intimidation anyway, and again, I like the Barbarian Intimidation checks with a certain cutscene related to Loviatar, so I think it would definitely make sense to pick up. Next up, at Barbarian level 2, we're going to be getting Reckless Attack, allowing us to give advantage on any attack roll, but enemies also have advantage against us as a result. I've really got to make a rogue build that focuses on sneak attack that uses this feature one day. I'm honestly surprised I haven't. We also have Danger Sense, giving us advantage on dexterity saving throws against traps, spells and surfaces, which is pretty nice. At Barbarian level 3, we get to choose our subclass, and yes, I'm not exactly being too creative here, but again, myself and the community built this together, so it's not just me, you can also blame them. Please don't, they're very good people. But we are going with Wildheart, and we are choosing the Bear Heart to gain resistance to all damage except psychic damage. We're building the strongest tank we can, so we absolutely want this, and it's going to help us out quite a lot later. So this is going to get us Bear Rage, again at giving us a rage that makes us resistance to all damage except psychic, and also Unrelenting Ferocity, allowing us to heal ourselves as an action. Not by a massive amount, I will admit, but it's enough to kind of help out sometimes. By the end of the build, we'll have other methods of healing that are going to be much more consistent than this, but in the early game, this can be quite useful when you are trying to tank. Next up, at level 4, we get to pick our first feat, and since our strength is already going to be pretty high at this point, you'll probably have Ethel's Boon at the very least, if not the Potion of Everlasting Vigour if you're really quick at this game. I don't think we need to put any points into any ability score improvements yet, but you could put some into Constitution now if you wanted. I just want to quickly show off the main feat that this build is going to be picking up before I forget about it. And yes, it is the tough feat. Our hit point maximum increases by 2 for every level we have gained. So it's going to give us a decent chunk of HP now, and even more as we level up. So you want to pick this up, because again, as much as HP as we can get. At Barbarian level 5, we get 2 really awesome things. Extra attack, allowing us to make a additional weapon attack with our action every turn. I mean, you know what it does. Why do I keep explaining it? Everyone knows what an extra attack does. Why do I keep explaining it? And fast movement, allowing us to gain a little movement speed buff of about 3 meters while not wearing heavy armor. Well, we're wearing clothing, so works for us. Now, what I'm going to do is kind of get into the gimmick of this build. I'll quickly do level 6 now, but really from level 5 onwards, you can take our multi-class if you want to. So I'll quickly go over level 6 now, and I want to grab the aspect of the beast, Stallion. This is going to allow us to, whenever we dash, we can get temporary hit points equal to twice our Barbarian level. This is just more tankiness, and if we can get our hands on a certain piece of equipment later, that will allow us to dash pretty frequently, being able to constantly keep this up if we want. So, at total level 7, I'm going to quickly show off the multi-class. You don't have to take this right away, but you absolutely can if you want to. We're actually going to go with Cleric, which is a bit of a weird one, because Cleric you normally pick if you're doing a deity build, like I do, to get the dialogue-related options, but unfortunately Loviatar is not a selectable deity in-game, which kinda sucks, so why even bother going with Cleric? In fact, I am just going to quickly pick a dude. Let me pick a dude. Where's the evil dude? Why did I... Is Ludwig not... Oh, god damn it. Just pick any evil dude, Tiamat. Lolth and Shah aren't normally applicable, so I'm going to pick Tiamat here because they're evil. But the reason we want to go with this, and we'll get to it in a minute as we go through the levels, is for the subclass, but also a specific spell. We're going to be going with War Domain, that's still vanilla, and War Domain is going to give us a few things like War Priest, allowing us to make 3 additional attacks per long rest using our bonus action, which is really nice. I mean, it's just more damage for us. We also get some cantrips here. Resistance and Guidance are going to be really nice for dialogue, as well as we can pick up Thaumaturgy as well to gain advantage on intimidation checks, which for a Barbarian is very, very nice. And we also get to prepare a singular spell. Now, normally I'd take Sanctuary in this slot, but the whole point is to take damage and, you know, feel pain, not not do that, so we can just pick something else for now, and Bless is a pretty decent spell, although it does take our concentration, so you're not going to be able to use it while raging. None of these are very good, if I'm being honest. Perhaps the healing spells would be a bit better. In fact, I might take Healing Word, because you never know. But again, we can't really cast any of these while raging. We're not here for the spells anyway. You'll see what we're here for in a moment. At Cleric level 2, we're going to get Guided Strike as our Channel Divinity action, allowing us to gain a +10 bonus to an attack roll. This is great if you don't want enemies to have advantage against you, but normally Reckless Attack will probably be what you're using more often, as that doesn't actually take a resource. We do get an extra spell at this level, and Create or Destroy Water. I don't know, it has some uses. At Cleric level 3, we get access to level 2 spells, and this is what we're here for. This is the whole gimmick. So with a chosen of Loviatar, we want to take on pain. We want to take on a lot of pain to show our devotion. If we suffer enough, Our Lady of Pain will smile upon us. So let's take all the pain, and I mean all of it, with Warding Bond. Warding Bond is a non-concentration, so it doesn't go away when we rage, spell that lasts until your next long rest or until you die or are incapacitated, and this is what it does. You ward an ally. They gain resistance to all damage and a +1 bonus to their armor class and saving throws. Each time that ally takes damage, you take the same amount. Here's the kicker, and I didn't know this until we started discussing the build. You can have Warding Bond upon multiple people at once. So, if we take 4 levels of Cleric, which will give us 3 level 2 spell slots, we have enough spell slots to cast Warding Bond on our whole party. Then, because they're only taking half damage because they have resistance to everything, we take that half damage, and then, if my math is correct, because of our Wildheart Barbarian feature, we should take even less damage than they did, so we can just keep going. You will have seen in the combat footage that I did this build solo, because that's what I do, but I could have done it with a party, but I test all my builds solo, and I kind of just wanted to show off that this build can just tank anyway. But this is just a really interesting gimmick. The fact that you can cast Warding Bond on your whole party and basically tank for them, even if you're not even being attacked yourself, is really, really interesting. And I thought it felt cool for someone playing Loviatar. I guess it kind of would have made sense for Martyr too, but I kind of just wanted this build to have a central gimmick that's unique to it, and I think it works out quite nicely. As for our other spells, it doesn't really matter what you take. Aid would be nice, but again, we don't really want to use the level 2 spell slots on anything else, so maybe we can just grab, Create or Destroy Water, maybe the healing spells, just so we have something for our level 1 spell slots to do outside of combat. We mainly just want 3 uses of Warding Bond. And with level 4 of Cleric, we can also pick up a feat, which is nice. We get nice even levels, so let's start pumping up that Constitution to an 18, giving us a whopping 137 HP. Reminder that this is on Tactician, so this is like real HP levels. We also do get another cantrip at this level. Take whatever you like, it really doesn't matter, as we kind of have everything we'd want. Produce Flame can make a nice little blue flame. I don't know, it can light up dark areas. I don't know. And as for our prepared spells, we do get an extra one at this level, so something from level 1, we'll keep Create or Destroy Water. And for our final levels of the build, let's hop back over to Barbarian. At level 7 of Barbarian, you're going to get Feral Instinct. You gain a +3 bonus to your initiative and cannot be surprised. Yeah, I mean, it's not too much, but hey, we're mainly here for the more HP. It's starting to really climb. And finally, we have another feat at level 8 Barbarian. We also gain Land Stride Difficult Terrain, meaning that difficult terrain no longer slows us down, but we're mainly here for a feat. Now, you have a couple of options here. We're going to be getting a maxed out Constitution score from our equipment, so we don't actually need to level it here. You can take an ability score improvement and bump up Dexterity if you like, which is what I did for the combat footage, but there's also room in this build for Dual Wielder. We have a lot of options in this build that could work with Dual Wielder, as there's a few one-handed weapons. So, if you wanted to go with Dual Wielder and dual wield them both, being able to use your bonus attack with your offhand instead of having to use War Priest charges, and also gaining weapon buffs from both weapons, which again, I'll go over in a minute, you absolutely could. However, I kind of found that the final weapon I wanted to use for this build that was, in my opinion, the most effective, was a two-handed weapon, so I've decided to go for an ability score improvement and bump up our Dexterity to give us a bit more AC and better initiative. yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty solid bit. And that is the build. Overall, we're very tanky. In Tactician, coming out, you know, about 177 HP is really, really good. In addition to that, having Warding Bond, like I say, we have 3 level 2 spell slots. Being able to cast Warding Bond on the whole party, so you're constantly tanking for everyone, is super, super great. Also, our weapon we have really decent stats overall, a 20 in Constitution with our equipment, and a 20 in strength with, you know, Ethel's Boon and the Potion of Everlasting Vigour, as well as 16 dexterity. We're going to be extremely effective in martial combat. We also have things like Speak with Animals and Thaumaturgy, along with Guidance, to really help us out with dialogue stuff, even though our charisma is absolute crap. We have a lot of cool things here. Hell, you can even summon Spiritual Weapon, but again, that takes up a spell slot that you're probably going to be wanting to use for Warding Bond, so, I don't know, it's there. Shield of Faith is also there too if you want to buff your armor class by 2, but you can't do that while raging, so I don't even know why I'm bringing it up. Anyways, let's get on to the equipment. Ooh, that worked out nicely. So, with the equipment here, I'm wearing camp clothing. I'll just quickly go over this now. These are camp clothing from a mod, so all mods are listed in the description below. But we have, as you can see here, quite a lot of options for things. Let's get into the weapons first. My kind of Act 3 option that I thought worked best is the Sword of Chaos. This does 2d6 plus 5 damage with an extra 1d4 necrotic damage on top, which I believe comes from one of no, actually no, I think that's just part of the weapon. But here's the main ticket, its ability. On a hit, you regain 1d6 hit points, so allowing us to kind of constantly keep ourselves healed. As well as that, combining this with the Ring of Regeneration, which also heals us for 1d4 hit points each turn. The Periopat of Wound Closure, which means we always heal the maximum amount of hit points possible whenever we do heal, so that 1d6 becomes just a flat 6, and that 1d4 becomes just a flat 4. So that's a lot of healing per turn, and the Whispering Promise giving us Bless whenever we heal means that we're able to constantly keep our massive pool of HP up and gain benefits from doing so. But as for our other weapons, we have a couple of Act 1 options here that come straight from Loviatar herself. Loviatar's Scourge is a mace. Okay, that 1d4 necrotic damage is coming from somewhere. It's coming from the gloves, my apologies. So no, the Sword of Chaos does not have necrotic damage on its own. I should not record videos right after coming home from work. Anyways, Loviatar's Scourge. This is an interesting weapon. It gives you resistance to necrotic damage and deals an additional 1d6 necrotic damage to nearby targets, including yourself. So basically, again, this is about taking on pain, but being able to deal out more as well. This is an Act 1 option. You can get this pretty much right at the start of the game from the Goblin Camp, as well as the Ritual Dagger. The Ritual Dagger is just a regular dagger, but it has a unique ability. After making an successful attack with it, the wielder receives a 1d4 bonus to attack rolls and saving throws until the end of the next turn. Basically, bless before we get the Whispering Promise. However, it also has a unique ability, Blood Sacrifice, allowing you to deal this damage to yourself, basically stabbing yourself with the knife, to get the same bonus, and you can do this as a bonus action. This is literally just here because it is straight up Loviatar's kind of weapon, so I wanted to include it in this build, and if you went for the dual wielding feature, you can have both of these up at the same time, which might be fun. But if you do go with the dual wielding strategy, I have to recommend the Shattered Flail. This is an Act 1 +2 weapon. Yes, this can be obtained right at the start of the game. Hitting an enemy with this weapon heals the wielder for 1 to 6 hit points, but they can go mad if they don't continue hitting an enemy each turn. And madness means they are hostile to everyone in the vicinity, kind of basically meaning you lose control. This would probably be my primary go-to weapon if you don't care about being kind of lore accurate with Loviatar's Scourge. The Shattered Flail would basically be the Sword of Chaos as far as the healing is concerned, just with a 1 less d6 of damage. So I would probably go with this, maybe dual wield it with Loviatar's Scourge, and then pick up the Sword of Chaos later on, maybe drop dual wielder for the ability score improvement if you want a few respec, or you can just keep dual wielding if that's your thing. I'm not going to stop you. There's a lot of room for kind of, you know, changing things up with this build, which I feel like is quite nice. Anyways, let's get on to the armor now. We've got the Horns of the Berserker here. Gain a +2 bonus to attack rolls when attacking creatures that have already taken damage. So, pretty nice. Unarmed and melee attacks, you will deal an additional 2 necrotic damage as long as you don't have full health. If you don't deal any damage this turn, you take 1d4 necrotic damage. Felt absolutely perfect for Loviatar. Deal pain or feel it upon yourself, which works out pretty good for us. We want to do both. This is an Act 3 option though, and while I don't have an earlier option listed here because I totally didn't forget to pick one, there's tons of options out there that'll work really nice. Use your imagination and come up with something interesting. I mean, I guess I can think of maybe like, no, if a Demo of Arcane Synergy wouldn't work, we don't have a spellcasting modifier. You figure it out. If you've been a fan of this channel long enough, you've probably already got a good idea. Use the wiki. It's your best friend. As for a cloak, I've just kind of thrown a cloak on here. If you want to go with the, if you play a Dark Urge, the Deathstalker Mantle would work perfectly here, giving you a bit more giving you a bit more of a trickster aspect, although being invisible means you're not taking damage, so maybe not. But the Flesh Melter Cloak is nice. Whenever you take damage from melee damage, the creature that deals that damage to you will take 1d4 acid damage. So again, you take on the suffering and spread it to your foes. Made perfect sense, thought I'd pick it up. And of course we have the Enraging Heart Garb. I know I'm a broken record at this point, but pretty much every Barbarian, or heck, even Monk builds can benefit from this quite nicely. While raging, we gain 2 turns of Wrath, which means we just do a little bit more melee damage, but the main thing here is the +2 to Constitution, allowing us to get 20 Constitution with this leveling scheme, and giving us an extra feat to do what we want, whether that would be dual wielding or putting it into decks like I've done here. So it just gives you a bit more flexibility, but maybe you want to use that ability score improvement to put your con to 20 and replace this with something else. Go ahead. I'm not your lawyer. With our gloves, we've got the Dark Justicia Gauntlets, basically just making our weapon attacks each deal an additional 1d4 necrotic damage. This is just a nice flat necrotic damage buff. This build kind of has a necrotic damage theme, so I thought, hey ho, works out quite nicely, might as well pick these up. A decent Act 2 option. You might find there's something you like better, perhaps the Helldusk Gloves in Act 3, but these work out quite nicely for now. And finally, the Bone Spike Boots, allowing you to have a +1 bonus to your armor class and saving throws as long as you are not wearing armor or holding a shield. We're doing neither. And also our jump distance is increased, and we get a unique bonus action attack called Brutal Leap, allowing us to do a special jump that can knock enemies prone. Pretty nice overall. It's just basically more AC for us, giving us a total of 19, which is quite nice. It means even if that means we don't have to take damage all the time. We could be pretty tanky by just dodging as well. That means we'll be able to tank more hits for our Warding Bond allies as well. But there are some other options. Obviously, the Bone Spike Boots are an Act 3 boots option, so I'll point out the Boots of Speed. These give us click heals, which allows us to basically use the Rogue's Cunning Action Dash whenever we like. All it costs is a bonus action. There's no once per certain rest restrictions here. Basically, this will synergize brilliantly with our aspect of the Stallion that we got at level 6 of Barbarian, allowing us to consistently gain temporary hit points just by clicking the Click Heals button. Perfect. Allowing us to be even more tanky. You might prefer this over the Bone Spike Boots, in which case, go for it. The other option I've got here for gloves is the Martial Absorption Gloves. Once per short rest, you can deal a big dollop of piercing damage to yourself, so literally making yourself suffer, to gain an additional attack for that turn and double your movement speed. So if you want a little bit more offense with a kind of on-theme, damage, self-damage thing, then this is what you can go with. And finally, for some alternative rings, if you don't care for this regenerating strategy, After Death Do Us Part will allow you to, whenever you are downed, rise once more with half of your hit points restored. If you're taking too much damage from Warding Bond, and you end up going down, this gets you back up. Now, I have been informed that even though this ring is supposed to inflict you with shadow possession when it does this, causing you to deal extra necrotic damage and get back up, but be hostile to everyone, it's bugged. This doesn't actually happen. You just get back up with half your hit points. So it's kinda... what the hell is going on there? 24-bit. I think that's just the calculation of how much HP we're going to be getting back, which is interesting, so that's kind of funny. I was just like, what is all these numbers? I'm not good at math. You know, like big numbers. But yeah, so the Shadow Possession part of this is kind of bugged at the moment. I might report this one to Larian, but honestly, it's not a huge deal. However, again, it's literally us getting back up and continuing to spread and take on suffering while dealing extra necrotic damage. It makes total sense. And then finally, we have the Risky Ring. This would allow us to gain advantage on all attack rolls and receive disadvantage on saving throws. To be honest, I have no idea why this is here. It was in my notes for when we built this on stream, so there must have been a reason we went for it, but I for the life of me cannot remember what it was. So I thought I'd include it here and then have maybe the people who are around for the stream tell me why, because honestly, I cannot remember. It's totally pointless since we have reckless attack, so yeah, I'm really confused. But whatever, it's here, I guess. So yeah, oh, there is one more thing I want to mention. There are a couple of Illithid Powers I would quite like to pick up here. The two I'll specifically name are Psionic Overload, which allows you to deal an additional 1d4 psychic damage each turn whenever you attack. However, you take 1d4 psychic damage each turn. I mean, I don't even need to explain why that's perfect for a build like this. And finally, Transfuse Health, allowing you to take on, you know, a bunch of damage in order to heal another target. This is basically just making ourselves suffer again. I thought I'd mention it, but otherwise, you don't actually need this one. But other ones like Look at the Far Realms and other passive features would be perfect on this build, and I think this guy would absolutely go for the Illithid Powers because, I mean, he's kind of unhinged as it is. So yeah, that is the build. As you can see in the combat footage that I would have shown a little bit of at the start, we had kind of a shorter intro this time, but I'll be showing in full now. This build can take a lot of damage. We're up against a Steel Watcher and a bunch of Flaming Fist guards that kept healing each other and all that, and I don't think this build ever dropped below half HP. It just tanked everything and then kept on swinging. The self-healing aspect mixed in with the, you know, the damage that we're able to output, as well as just the general tankiness of the build, is insane. Might have had a bit more trouble if we were warding everybody, but again, I think it just goes to show that this build can take on some serious damage, and I think it can tank for the whole party. If that damage is spread out across multiple characters that also have resistance, I actually think this could be really fun, so try this out for yourself. I totally forgot to mention, there is straight up, I'll talk about this over the combat footage anyway, because I might as well, since it's kind of extra information as it is. There is actually a Loviatar themed buff in this game that is permanent if you didn't know it existed. It's called Loviatar's Love. You can obtain it right in Act 1, around the same time you'd get the Loviatar weapons, from a actual priest of Loviatar. There's a really funny cutscene, especially if you're playing as a Barbarian with high Intimidate, which again, we have Thaumaturgy and Intimidation if you went with Dirge, like I suggest, and it is so good. I won't spoil what happens in the cutscene because I just found it so funny, but if you go through with it all the way to the end, you get the buff Loviatar's Love, which essentially gives you a buff to certain things once you're below a certain threshold of HP. The exact buff will be listed in the description. Don't worry, there's no spoilers there, you can click on that perfectly safely. So yeah, I mean, not much else to talk about as far as the build goes, so I'll go into some end of video ramblings. Like I said, I'm planning another Deity build livestream for this weekend, so feel free to swing on by. It's going to be on Saturday at 2 PM UK time, and I hope to see you all there. Also, a bit of a shock, actually. I was surprised. I kind of uploaded the Monday build, which was recorded, I believe it was on sometime last week, sometime on the weekend. That was the Call of Cthulhu inspired build, which I was really proud of because I really wanted to kind of just show off my love for a different RPG system through Baldur's Gate 3. And you all loved it. The video did incredibly well considering the subject matter. I didn't think it was going to do well at all. I didn't think there'd be a lot of interest for it, but it absolutely smashed my expectations, and you guys really showed how much you loved the concept. Again, I'd love to do more with Call of Cthulhu on this channel somehow. And like I say, I've got some ideas, including a pretty big idea that I don't want to say anything about yet, but I may give hints and possibly get feedback over on the Discord, so join the Discord if you want to be up to date on what I'm up to. But yeah, no, the video did really, really well, and I was so happy about that. Not sure how the Minthara one's going to go, but considering how popular that character is, I think it'll be alright. I mean, that's going up tomorrow. Yes, because today is Tuesday. I'm recording these videos very far in advance because I don't want to have another 1 week of no content again because YouTube did not like it. And as I said before, modded builds are coming to the channel as well as part of our bonus kind of Sunday series that I've got going on at the moment, and I'm so excited. I've managed to cook up a modded build that it's strong. It uses a really popular subclass, but I've built it in a way that I don't think other people would expect, and the theming is awesome. I really hope that you guys enjoy that when it comes out, because it's the most excited I've been about a build video in a long time. Like, I didn't realize what I was missing by not doing modded builds and exploring other subclasses further. And I will be clear, modded videos, modded builds are not going to replace vanilla content. They will always be supplementary. I'm pretty sure the Sunday video series are going to be here to stay for a while, just because it kind of gives me a bit of wiggle room as far as being able to try and experiment with new things like D&D builds and these modded builds. So you're always going to get your 3 vanilla builds every week, and then we'll have bonus content on the Sundays, whether that's a modded build or whatever. But again, I'm really looking forward to showing that one off. I think you guys are going to love it. Alright, that is going to do it from me. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.